When I was a kid, I often wondered why certain TV shows were off-limits. Was it the crude language or maybe some risque scenes? Probably. But for me, there was a deeper reason those forbidden shows held such allure. It all began when I was about 6, a time when I thrived on doing exactly what I wasn't supposed to. Tell me not to sneak a cookie from the jar, and I'd probably eat the whole batch. So, when my mom banned me from watching the late-night block on a certain cartoon channel, it became my mission to tune in every night. For a few nights, I got away with it. I'd sit cross-legged on the living room floor, remote in hand, stifling giggles as I defied my mom's rules. The thrill of rebellion was intoxicating. But my secret TV sessions didn't last long. About a week into my sneaky routine, my mom started noticing clues. My stuffed toys were scattered in front of the TV each morning, and I was dragging through the day, clearly not sleeping enough. The final straw came one night when she caught me glued to the screen. I don't remember the exact show, but I recall a bizarre chant repeating a word I knew was naughty. Looking back, it could have been any edgy show from that late-night lineup. Maybe even one I caught recently where a creepy character muttered something inappropriate into a phone. Who knows? Back then, all that mattered was I'd been caught red-handed. Like any 6-year-old nabbed in the act, I burst into tears. I sobbed so hard I'm convinced I damaged my throat that night, pleading for forgiveness. But my mom was unyielding. She gave me a stern spanking and sent me to bed. My mom wasn't quick to anger, but when she was mad, she was fierce. As a kid, I thought she was being harsh, but now I'm grateful she set boundaries. That night, I swore I'd never watch that channel again. A promise as fleeting as one vow to eat candy after a stomachache. Those shows lingered in my mind, so different from the wholesome cartoons my mom approved of. They were bold, taboo, and everything my first-grade friends bragged about watching in school. A week or so later, my dad came to visit. My parents had split when I was a baby, so his visits were rare, maybe once a year. He was a storm chaser, always traveling for work, and I loved hearing his wild tales of tornadoes and tempests. That night, since it was a special occasion, my mom let me skip my usual 8:30 bedtime. My dad, always a softy, let me do whatever I wanted, probably to make up for his absence. So, at nearly 1 a.m., we were still up, parked in front of the TV. With a mischievous grin, I asked if we could watch this cool new show I'd found. I gave him the channel number, knowing full well it wasn't airing anything kid-friendly at that hour. My dad, a fan of adult cartoons himself, didn't hesitate to flip the channel. I felt a rush of excitement mixed with that familiar twinge of fear those shows always sparked. Some of the stuff on that lineup could be downright creepy for a 6-year-old. During a commercial break, my dad started snoring loudly enough to wake the neighbors. Annoyed, I scooted closer to the TV to hear better. The show I was watching faded to a black screen, typical for that channel's quirky ads. But this time, the silence dragged on, and no logo appeared. My unease grew as the screen stayed dark, the quiet stretching longer than usual. Just as I thought the station had gone offline, the screen flickered, and a logo appeared, not the one I expected. It was a stark design of sharp white lines crisscrossing in a box, almost like a colorless version of a Nature Channel's emblem. It was clean but unsettlingly simple. As the logo faded, a loud, booming sound, like the one you hear before a movie in theaters, blared through the speakers. I was shocked it didn't wake my dad. A deep voice announced, "We now present our feature presentation," like a theater narrator reminding you to silence your phone. I relaxed, assuming this was just the channel's way of introducing a movie. I was thrilled at the thought of bragging to my friends about watching a forbidden late-night film. The movie opened with rain falling from a dark sky, mixed with red droplets that looked like blood but reminded me of cheap paint from a craft kit. Low-budget effects weren't unusual for that channel, so I wasn't surprised. The scene shifted to a bird's-eye view of a character with vibrant purple hair, the color washing away in the rain, leaving purple streaks on their body. A close-up revealed a cartoonish woman with black slit eyes, like an electrical socket, moving on spindly stick-like limbs. She raised an arm toward a window, but her reflection was oddly missing. As a kid, I didn't think much of it, but the sharp camera angles and the music set my nerves on edge. I was determined to keep watching, not wanting to be teased at school for chickening out. The music sounded like it came from a warped old record player, and soon the camera showed exactly that. A vintage record player on a table, operated by a heavy-set man who looked like a knockoff Santa Claus. He had a curling white mustache, flushed cheeks, and glassy blue eyes that sparkled unnaturally. He turned the crank on the record player, producing that haunting music. "Turn the crank," he chanted, his voice unnervingly cheerful. The camera zoomed in on his hand, the motion slow and deliberate. The wooden base of the record player began to crack under the strain, the sound growing louder and more grating. My excitement turned to anxiety. I inched closer to the couch where my dad slept, oblivious to the unsettling scene. The crank kept turning, the cracks widened, and the man's chant grew more gleeful. "Turn the crank, turn the crank." Tears welled up as my childhood fears of loud noises and eerie silence collided. The record player finally broke, the crank snapping in the man's hand as smoke poured from the device, hovering unnaturally around it. The camera focused on the man's face. His cheeks paled, his eyes lost their shine, and then, shockingly, his eyes shattered like glass, fragments falling to the floor. I later realized the rain from the opening was likely those glass shards. The screen cut to black, then returned to the street where the purple-haired character had been. It was now covered in glass shards, tinged with purple from her drained hair. The camera zoomed in, revealing her lifeless body amid the debris. I knew, even at 6, that she was dead. No one could survive that. Tears streamed down my face as the scene shifted to an hourglass, sand trickling through it against a grim, colorless backdrop. A voice whispered, "She's fine now, don't worry. Thanks for watching, kids. But you're not safe yet." I screamed so loudly my throat ached the next day. My dad jolted awake, accidentally hitting the remote and changing the channel. When the screen flipped back to the Cartoon Channel's logo, I was confused. It was as if the movie hadn't been on that channel at all. My dad hit the recall button, but a message appeared, "Programming not authorized. Please confirm your subscription or contact your cable provider." Somehow, I'd watched an entire film on a restricted channel. Had my dad bumped the remote in his sleep? I hadn't noticed the channel change, only the shift from a show to that bizarre movie. That night, I slept in my mom's bed, trying to erase the images from my mind. The next morning, I overheard her scolding my dad about letting me watch late-night TV. Looking back, that film wasn't as scary as the darker shows and comics I'd later enjoy, but it left a lasting mark. I still watch that channel now, but I'm cautious, especially with late-night movies. I'd love to know the film's title to research it, maybe find out who voiced that creepy Santa-like character. If anyone knows, I'd appreciate the help.